Welcome to the Melanin Jelly Project Conversations, a podcast that celebrates diversity and representation in children's storytelling, entertainment, and edutainment. I am the host, Olutola. On this podcast, I chat with authors and creators of children's books, entertainment, and edutainment. This is also a collaboration with the Ottawa Black Book Club. Okay. So welcome Evelyn, Olutola, Logan. Welcome to the Melanin Jelly Project Conversations podcast. My name is Olutola. I'm the host of this podcast, so I would like to say welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Louisa.
Thank you more. And today we'll be chatting about your book, On the Streets of Ondo.
Yes.
So first of all, I came across this book I came across your Kickstarter.
Okay.
Because I write for adults and just recently started writing for children.
Okay.
Yes, I had writer's block. Yeah, my first book was published in 2005.
Okay.
So I've been writing for adults and I had writer's block. I didn't know where to take my stories. So I have these novels and collection of short stories just sitting there, and I said, trick your brain, write for kids. So I joined all these groups on Facebook, and that's why I just came across your book, because I said, I'm doing Afrocentric. And when I saw Ondo, I said, it doesn't get more African than this. Who is this lady? Yes. So tell me about yourself and what your inspiration was for writing this story, because, you could have written any other story.
Yes.
Why
That's
On the Streets of Ondo?
Yeah. So a little bit about me, I'm in my 40s, so I'm a little old school. I'm not trendy pop.
Okay. Yeah, guilty. I'm all great. So
and so this book, On the Streets of Ondo, as I mentioned, I'm Nigerian. I would consider myself Nigerian American because I've been here for a long time. But to my core, I'm a Nigerian woman, and so I really Ondo is where my mom is from.
Okay.
And Ondo is where, half of my family is from, and so that experience in life is what is ringing through in the story for kids.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it really is about, just what I remember Ondo to be, or just Nigeria in general, because the short period of time that I lived in Nigeria, I lived in Ife. So it wasn't that I was in Ondo, but I think the book really plays tribute to my mom. She's my inspiration for the book. On the first page, you see it's dedicated to her and her only, because this is where she's from, and this is what truly inspired the book.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. And the illustrations are beautiful.
Yes. To share, we need to talk more about African story in books for children, where we're really teaching them important cultural traditions, dialogue, because it's such a global world. They're learning from so many different places now. You want to try in some way to preserve your own culture and traditions that you grew up with as a child.
Yeah.
And so really telling those stories is key, to really making sure that people understand different aspects of life, different aspects of culture, no matter where you live. You shouldn't feel comfortable to come from another country and not be treated with respect and dignity because people don't understand you because you're from a different place,
Yeah.
Because
when I started reading this book, I started to laugh because it's very the book took me home. I grew up in Nigeria and I schooled in the UK, then moved to Canada, but I intentionally kept my accent because I told someone I'm doing it for authenticity. So when I was reading The Streets of Ondo, it took me back home, because for those of us who grew up on the continent, there's always this, do I use this word ojuju or bomo? Yes, that is, how the way you spoke about this Deruba man, so that is the equivalent of Deruba man. Oh, don't go out this time because Madam Koi will catch you. Don't go out.
Yeah.
It's always, and I keep asking, has anybody ever seen this thing? Everybody, all these things they scare kids with. Has anybody seen it? So when I read it, I just started to laugh because I went, oh my God, these are the things we grew up with. These are the kind of stories we grew up hearing. So why did you choose to share this kind of story with the world? Because you said this book was to honor your mom. Why? You could have written about anything. You could have written about jollof rice. You could have written but why the Deruba man? Why this kind of bomber story?
Just like you said, our generation, this is how we grew up in Nigeria. And it's so refreshing to hear you say that because, it was my experience as well, and so, and I think it's what you remember too as a child, the things that kind of put you in your place. And when you look at yourself as an adult and you're an obedient child, you understand because back in the day, I heard these stories. And these stories made me do what they said because otherwise, you don't want any problems. And so it just depends on, how that experience comes across for you. But for me, it was something that I remember growing up. And it wasn't per se that, they were using the word the Deruba man. That's certainly fictional for the story. But it, just like you said, there's some sort of story that anyone can relate to that parents will use. And, unfortunately, I guess for the parents, they're going to find out a little bit of what it was about. At the end, they're going to, I'm telling the secret of, the Deruba man at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So why do you think it's important for us to tell diverse stories? Why do you think it's important for children, especially children growing up in the diaspora, to have access to diverse stories? Why do you think it's important for them to be able to open up a book and see children that look like them?
Oh, it's all important because it's all true, that those things happen, those experiences happen, and one of the things that I think the next generation really needs is to show courage. And, so in these three kids, I really wanted to show how courageous they were to want to go and find out, want to create a plan, want to be strategic in the world and to choose to go find out, is this factual? And if it is, what happens, what is going on? And so as you go through the story, you hear them as kids trying to figure it out, trying to convince themselves to do this, and it shows bravery, it shows courage. And I hope that kids who read this book show courage too and show bravery in the way they live their lives, not judge people, not be quick to say this person isn't thinking like me, because when you think about it, any kid can decide they want to do this no matter what street they're from. These particular kids are from the streets of Ondo, and I really think it's important to see characters from all walks of life, so you can start to understand people so we can work together. I mean, those things are important to me. And so those are the educational and learning pieces that I'm hoping the kids are getting from the story: to be brave, to be courageous, to live your life, try to start making choices, because it's okay to do that as kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And naturally doing that anyway, and so helping them to see that there are different people in the world is very important.
Okay, but don't you think that, because I thought that at the end of this story, they would not find out who the Deruba man is, because I'm still that, because I love history, I like mythology and all of that. So I was just feeling that, I would have loved if at the end they didn't find him and they just live in that mystery of who could he be? But seeing him, I'm like, okay, they solved the mystery. But wait, there's something good here. They will also tell their children these stories.
Yeah, and so, it's doing two things for the kids. It's number one, saying, you know what, there are things out there that you have to do, probably in the name of family traditions and cultures, And so in this case, I did want them to find out. And now the whole world, I guess, within this particular story is going to find out too. But I did want them to find out, because then it puts them in a situation to understand how tradition starts to work. That even whether you find out or not, you too, when you have children, you're going to see the need to do this, because it's a tradition that's happening from generation to generation in this particular culture, And so hopefully that the kids are, starting to build on the culture and understanding this is a part of tradition.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what are the challenges? What do you think are the challenges diverse authors encounter when they're trying to tell authentic stories, authentic multicultural stories? What are some of the challenges? When you were writing this book, what were some of the challenges you experienced?
So I think the biggest challenge is finding the right voice to tell the story through. You know, like, what are the nuances, you know, in the story? And I think that's a challenge in itself, because if you're not used to creating conflict and nuances, and you need that in a story because you need to teach a lesson, you know, especially in a good story, you know, you're saying something. And so if you don't have that voice that is going to say that message in a way that people can understand, you know, then it's really hard to tell the story. And so sometimes for me, you know, I want to use certain words. I want to take it down a certain path and teach a certain lesson, but I feel like another one may be more softer and understandable for kids, you know, and in this case, we're talking about, you know, bravery, friendship, family, you know, and storytelling.
Okay. And why did you choose to self-publish? Why didn't you go the traditional publishing route?
Well, just like your last question, you know, what are some of the hardships? Another one is being not just a author of color, but an African author, and then a woman. You know, I don't know. A lot of those books are, you know, for kids, you do see women published, but it's not, you know, people of color. I mean, it's not diverse books, and it's not just the person, but what is in your story too, you know, like the characters in your story. And so when you share the story and you show the characters, you know, sometimes they don't get picked up, you know, and the importance of, you know, the illustrated the book, by the way, you were talking about earlier, what a beautiful illustration. Kamala M. Nair, she's Indian, and we worked across the sea. You know, she lives in India, I live in the US. And, you know, it's that's why I was saying, you know, technology is great, because she did a phenomenal job to be able to bring it together.
It's so beautiful.
And she's such a great artist. And so to be able to tell that story, you know, all of that work that goes into it, people don't see that. Also too, if you're not independently publishing. So that's the two swords. The one is that, you know, you're not really getting opportunities in the traditional publishing world.
Okay.
And, you know, I don't want to say it's about race, but when you see the percentage of people who actually get published, who are writing about, and the pictures are about, you know, people of color, they don't get a seat at the table. You know, it's not easier to get into bookstores. It's not easier to, you know, find someone who wants to represent you, even though you have a beautiful story. And so, you know, that's one in and of itself. And then the other part is that piece of when you when you don't do it independently, you don't have the autonomy that you do in independent publishing. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, but, you know, I thought it was worth it to, you know, make the investment and do it well, you know, go through a independent publishing company who helped me do this, Wise Inc. Publishing. They did a phenomenal job of really taking me through the process, and you don't get that experience, you know, you don't get that autonomy of making those decisions if you're traditionally published. And so I think being able to select Kamala M. Nair to illustrate it, that was a great choice, you know, using Wise Inc. to help with the printing and the design and the layout and all those things was a big help. They had an editor. So it was a good program for me to use to get to put the product out there. But it's a good story, you know, it's beautifully illustrated, well orchestrated, for people to really enjoy the book.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. So to Kickstarter.
Yes.
So for me, you know, when I looked at it and I thought about it, because I had written 2 books that I was trying to push. I'll show you. I have them here. I went as far as Crowning Glory, the African Safari. And I tried to push to agents, tried to do the traditional thing. It didn't work out. Then I decided to go the self-publishing route. But Kickstarter is something I have always wanted to do. But you see, I have that there's that fear. Oh, what if it doesn't work out? How do I go about it? I don't know how to go about it. And the successful Kickstarters I've seen people who've done 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
They don't look like me. Yeah. So I thought about it and I went, okay, let me talk to you. Let me ask you. So how did you go about Kickstarter? Why was your Kickstarter successful?
So I think that it's really important to do the research and create a plan. I think creating a plan and taking my time to put Kickstarter together, and of course, with the help of Wise Ink Publishing, they were a good resource to help me create my Kickstarter. I mean, I created it myself, but they gave me guidance. And, I just got help and, network on social media to kind of meet people who had different skills, to see if they can give me advice so that I could do it myself. But I was really getting advice from them, speaking to people that I would meet online that did certain things. And so just really coming together with a team of people to say, okay, you need this, you need that, you need a video, you need to really be able to tell your story on Kickstarter, you need images, you need rewards, you need to be able to fulfill it at the end, because I'm an individual businesswoman. So it's not like I have the operational hands to help me do a lot of these things. And so, it's a lot of work, but you had to plan it, and so I was very methodical and strategic about the plan for how Kickstarter was going to go and how it was going to be successful. I mean, I really had to promote it. I really had to get on different platforms, try to meet people and promote the campaign. And so I had some great support people also who wanted to donate to, Kickstarter and stuff like that. So that really helped. And all that makes it successful, but it is work, to get it out there for sure. Or, you can hire a team of folks. They have a team of folks who do this, that they always advertise.
They're expensive. When you're self-publishing, every penny, if I think of what I spent on self-publishing this 2 books, pick the illustrator, and I felt that I was trying to be authentic. I look at all these things and you say, I can't. These are some of, for me, the challenges with self-publishing.
There are a lot.
There are a lot. So when I look at Kickstarter, I go, okay, let me try Kickstarter. Challenges: how do you work on the pricing? How do you estimate? Because I reached out to a couple of authors who had done Kickstarter. One of them, she said, look, Louisa, it's not as easy as it seems. She said her first one failed, but I think the last 2 she did went well. But where she had her biggest challenge was postage, because she had people who had, people as far away as Australia who had supported her Kickstarter.
Right.
And when she got the book and calculated what it would cost to post a physical copy to that person, she just went on Amazon, ordered it, and had it delivered to that person. So how do you factor in all these costs? Because I've done the maths. Shipping books to Canada, shipping books to the US is cheaper. If I'm shipping to Montreal, it's cheaper than. So Montreal, Ottawa is what, 2 hours by road?
Okay. From you, okay.
From me. So Ottawa, then there's Montreal. But if I was going to have books delivered to Montreal, it would be about $3,000 cheaper than having it delivered to Ottawa. And that's, I think, because Montreal has a port, I think. Ottawa, because they said, to get to that port, then it has to be brought all the way to my house and all of that. So how did you go about with the costs? Printing costs. How did you go about costs? Let me just put it that way. Costing, postage, all of that. How did you do that?
So this is where the value of having a team of people around you, whether you're purchasing it as like a consulting service, helps. Like this is what, so having Wise Ink, they already factored in a lot of the costs, like printing, layout, editor, design, everything that you need to make sure that your book is authentic, and you could put it in Barnes and Nobles, you could sell it on Amazon and things like that. And so they help with that, and so that cost is already in place. The cost with the shipping for all of the Kickstarter stuff, shipping actually changes in cost.
Okay.
But what I did was I actually signed up with a company who, if you have the setup at home to print your own shipping labels, you get discount on shipping.
Oh,
So I use that service where the shipping is low, and it's either sometimes it works in the favor, sometimes, it's a little bit more for somebody, but usually media mail, I keep it simple. The cost is low because we could use US media mail here to send out. But I mean, it's still a cost, it's still a cost. So sometimes it's part of it where, now too, most things are free shipping if you're on Amazon. So, or even some places they do free shipping now, and so you're thinking, okay, if I have to pay for shipping, it's a cost, but it's a cost both ways. So, I don't, that's a tough one,
Okay. So
Yeah,
what are
that's
some tips? What are some tips you would give authors who, okay, like me, if I decided I wanted to do a Kickstarter for my 2 books, what advice would you give me?
I mean, my first one would be it doesn't have to be an elaborate plan, but to create a plan of what you want to accomplish. So like setting your goal, if you set your goal, let's say, the first time around, you want to keep it simple, you have a good support system that will get you to a certain amount of dollars, and you're trying to get more and things like that. There's strategies, like there's things that you could say, okay, the first thing I would say is go ahead and figure out what you want. So is it $500 that you need to help, with your project, because you still have to pay for shipping, you still have to pay for printing, the book. And if you're going to put it on like Amazon, you have to pay as a merchant, right, to sell your book on Amazon. And so, so there's like different fees, that are out there that you have to pay. And so you have to factor that into the cost of the book, So after all that, how much am I going to make from each book? So like the second advice for Kickstarter would be, figure out, keep your dollar low of the amount that you're asking for, because it's all or none. If you don't make the 500, then you don't get anything. They give the money back to your friends and family and other people. But if you make it, you get that fund. And so keep it low, so it's reasonable, that maybe you can, earn it, get it all the money that you need. And then keep costs low. Try not to pay more, look for a company that can print easily, that is that's the most quality but cheaper, on the cheaper end. That would be a great way for the Kickstarter. And then don't do a lot of like rewards, if you're going to keep it low.
Yeah.
If you want to like, do $20,000, then I say you probably have to put rewards out there, But if you're doing, $500, maybe $1,000, then you can say, okay, maybe I'll send, a coloring page or 2 coloring page digitally to your email.
Okay.
So a coloring page that you can maybe create in a Canva or something like that, and then send it to the family and stuff like that, or the email. So those are different ways that you can earn money, and not output. Some people will support you and say, I don't want a book, and so that's more money that the revenue for you. So it really depends. But I say, if it's something that you feel like you need to do, because for me, it was a lot of work, but I was asking for a lot, because I was really trying to make sure that the product I output, the book, was high quality, good story. You could read it, you could feel it, and things like that. And you can see the colors, you can get the contrast and the boogeyman story, and then the light at the end of the tunnel, kind of thing. And so I think that it does cost, it does to do it right, it does take a lot of work. But I think that, the support that you see around my book right now is because of, the work that we put into it. So
yeah, because I'm thinking of costs. And I know that sometimes printers charge according to the number of pages books have.
Definitely.
If I want to put out 2 books, I want to put out 2 books and plush dolls. And one of the books is 56 pages. The other one is 40 something pages. So I would not be asking for less than $20,000.
Okay.
Do this. And I'm wondering, but you never know until you try.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I never knew until I tried. I mean, if I could, I probably wouldn't do Kickstarter because it was a lot of work to plan and schedule and be strategic like that.
Yeah.
But it was, good work. I've learned a lot from it, but too, it was a lot of work. And so you have to be ready for it, to do it right, to do it successfully. And then you go from there, and then you have to be able to deliver too after the Kickstarter is over. So it is a lot of work, it really is, but I think you're ready for it. I think anybody who wants to do it is ready for it. But it is by page. It's also by whether it's color or black and white and stuff like that. So all of it shifts costs. You got to look at all of it and then make a decision about whether you want to do it. But I think it's rewarding. I think you can do it. You just got to go for it.
I think it's worth a try.
Definitely, yeah.
I think it's one of those fears I need to conquer. I just need to.
Yeah, good for you.
Damn if you don't, just go ahead, try it. So, what is one takeaway you want children and adults to have? Because reading this book, it took me home. So if a child was reading it, or if an adult was reading it, someone of a different culture, someone of a different race was reading this, what is one takeaway you want?
Oh man, it's a whimsical book. It's about adventures in life. It's about memories, it's about traditions and culture. And I think even if it's not your own culture, it's going to take you back to your own culture. It's going to make you think about your own traditions, and I think family is so important. This book was inspired by family. It's connected in that way. The roots of where we're all from, and understanding ourselves and really trying to then weave it into the world of people, to connect. And so I want people to take away, love, family, friendship, adventure, very whimsical, but then with that kick of the stories that we hear, the stories that we tell and the stories that we hear. So it's a lot of messages, but I think it all ties into family, your tribe, remembering your tribe.
Okay. And how do you think that as diverse authors, we can support each other?
Oh, I mean, this is one way. This is one way to do that, in somebody being able to set up and receive the message, record a podcast, an interview, and really understand the author. And then the author too, having stories and messages to put out there. So you need both people. Also too, other ways is, sharing the person's personality through their social media. I'm in my 40s, and so I think I teeter on the line of I don't really want to do social media, but I'll also do social media, but I'd rather do things like this, connect at events and get on podcasts and do interviews and really show who I am as a person and as an author, so that if that message you feel like is a good message to put out there in the world, you share it too, and vice versa. And this is a story that I'm going to share on my social media, and I definitely, I'm in a network of different authors, and so that might shine some light on you as well, and so this is the work you have to do, and so this is one of the ways that we have to continue to do that.
Okay. So what are the challenges? What do you think are some of the challenges we face as diverse authors? Do you think that we don't work together enough to put our books out there? Because for me, when I thought about it, and I thought, okay, what is the best way to promote authors? What is the best way to put yourself out there and also make it beneficial to other authors? And I just went, you know what? A podcast will work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work because we have to do the recording, we have to do the editing, but when you do something from a place of passion, it's not work. So sometimes, it's a Saturday morning, I should be cleaning my house. And I have, back-to-back recordings, and people go, but Louisa, why do you do this? Right. You don't earn money from it. And I go, I do it for the passion. I love books. I love to feel books. I love to smell books. See, I am still not, you see these digital things people do?
Yeah.
It's not me. I still want to feel the paper and all of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges you think that we as diverse authors, because it's important we tell our stories. No one will tell our stories as well as we will. Our stories have been put out there, but if you realize, for centuries they've been told by other people. Yeah. So what are some of the challenges you think we experience when we try to work together?
Well, I think that I think it's a compartmentalized system where some groups work together. You see pockets of groups, pockets of networks, but then some groups, there's other groups right here working together. And I think the question is, how do you get all the groups to work together? Because I do see that there are groups, but then I also see where, they're individual people kind of trying to, network and understand, what each other's trying to do, And so we have to we do have to work together. And I don't think that's what I'm saying. I don't think we're not necessarily working together. I think we're just working together in groups. And it's like, how do you get into one group or, bridge groups and things like that? I think it's more complex than what it looks like for us, I think the bigger thing is, whether we're coming in groups or we're a big group, we need to try to, create our own like printing companies and things like that and work together in that way. Because I think, we're still dependent on that whole traditional publishing kind of way. And there's so many good things that can come out of independent publishing, there's a lot of autonomy. Once you're able to pay your cost of everything, then, it's all profit from there and things like that. You're not really sharing of that or getting just a small, percentage. And so there's positive pieces to doing it independently, but also too, I still understand, that wanting to be traditional published if you're going to do it in a big way. It does make a difference too if you're the only one working or you have a small team, that you're not marketing enough to sell 500,000 books. You know what I mean? And so those who are able to do that, they truly do it through the traditional publishing way because they use their funds in marketing to really get the word out there. And so I think that's a piece that's missing from an independent publishing way. And it'd be great if people would partner together from an independently publishing standpoint and give marketing dollars to independent publishers. I don't know if there are organizations like that out there, but there should be. There should be.
I know that people get grants. Because
right.
I've bought some books and opened it up and I see that, this book was sponsored by or funded, partially funded by maybe the Arts Council or those kind of things. But I like Facebook because when I go on the Facebook groups, you post a question, someone is going to help out. Because I know that the main challenge of self-publishing that I have experienced is funding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My goal then, I'll show you this. My goal then was not just to have the books, but also to have dolls go with them.
Right, okay.
Yes. But what I was able to do was just get samples. I just said, get me samples, and I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
And I put in, and that's why I'm thinking of Kickstarter. Because Kickstarter is a great way. I see other people do it and it's successful. What do you hope for the future? The future of your writing, your books. Yeah. Where do you hope to see your books?
Gosh, I hope to see, I want to write for different genres. So, you mentioned being an adult writer, which I'm like, wow, that's fantastic.
Yes.
I want to write for adults as well, but I also want to do TV and screenwriting. That's something that I've really come to appreciate, script writing. So I'm doing a little bit of that, but my future of writing for children's book is I want to continue to write, On the Streets of Ondo is a series. And, these same three kids, they go on another adventure. And this time they're leaving Ondo and they're going to Ayeke Lake. So It's a travel for them, and we follow that new adventure where they're being more brave and more courageous about doing something else and following a story that they've heard, another story that they've heard from generation to generation. And so I have written 4 total for the series. So these kids keep going on an adventure, and I would love to see that as a like a animation TV show for kids. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember Tinga Tinga, the cartoon it may have been on Disney Junior and Nick Jr. or something like that in the U.S. But I mean, I know you're in Canada and you were in the U.K. But there's this show called Tinga Tinga, and it really follows like different folk tales.
Okay.
Through animals, and it was an animation show, and it was really cute, but it taught lessons about, the grasshopper and the bee, or something like that.
Oh, that's nice. That's
so
nice.
All the folk tales that people kind of grew up with,
Tinga Tinga. Okay, I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna look it up on YouTube. No, we didn't have that in Nigeria because Nigeria were colonized by the British. So
right, yeah.
NTA then had British cartoons, British shows, and all of that. What we had back then that was closest to our entertainment for children was Tales by Moonlight.
Oh, I don't know.
Yes, so we had Tales by Moonlight. But the good thing about social media and what I'm loving about it is that YouTube and social media, Instagram and all of that, gives us the opportunity to do things. My very first interview was with the creator of Bino and Fino, which was amazing because he is creating African content for children, edutainment, which I feel it's amazing. For people who want to buy your books, where can they get your books to buy?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. My website, definitely, www.evelynloganwrites.com. So WRITES, evelynloganwrites.com.
Okay.
And that's one place, but it's also on Amazon, not just the ebook, but the hardcover, even though it's sold out right now. It's on Amazon. And then the paperback, there's a couple available, but that's on Amazon as well. And so hopefully to be getting stock in, printing, there's printing paper shortages unless you want to go overseas. And so I like to do things local right now and just support businesses local too. But, also, like I said, I've supported international businesses too, but definitely local. So the printing is local right now. And,
I thought you were printing in China because
no.
Oh, I've never thought of that. Thank you for saying that. I've never thought of printing local. Okay.
Yeah, it helps with being able to get it quicker, but like I said, there's always a wait list with printing, and things like that. And then when you have to make little edits and changes to the books and stuff like that, it's like for the second print and stuff. So all that stuff is going on, and but hopefully to be able to get it back to print and in inventory soon is the goal.
Okay. And also you save on shipping costs, right? If you print local.
Yeah, you do. Exactly. You do.
Yeah, why? No one has ever said this. You are the first person to actually talk of printing local, because anytime you talk of printing, everybody thinks of China. So now that you've said it, I've done the math. I've taken off $5,000.
Oh, you're funny.
Yes.
So hey, look, hopefully I dropped some gems today. I don't know,
Yeah, you did. I just want to say a very big thank you for writing an amazing book.
Thank you
for showing up here. Thank you so much. And thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Louisa. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to Queenie. She did a great job.
Yeah.